through them.
Wait, you drink coffee? Audio. You drink coffee?
Yeah.
You want to hit the live button?
Black coffee.
Yeah. Usually bro, I've been kind of going on a curve. I usually drink black coffee as well, but I've been.
I think that black coffee is like the only way to drink it because like that's how you get the flavor of like what was
flavor.
brewed.
Yeah.
You know, like the beans, where they came from, all that. Because like all those other additives, they just like add flavor. And I think when you're talking about drinking coffee, it's like these are the beans that I'm drinking.
Wait, are you like
juice.
a coffee head or something?
No, not at all. I don't drink coffee a lot, but when I do, it's like I like to have the natural.
That sounds like something a coffee head would say, though.
Maybe I am.
Shoot,
I don't know. Okay, so I guess we're live, right? All right.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today we are doing our live shoots at 3 p.m. as opposed to last week where we did 12, but we're still experimenting with this. I hope there's even people here now watching besides Nico. What's up, Nico? Shouts out to Nico for helping us with this episode. But today we have Joseph Ramos coming in to join us for a conversation about environmental friendliness and how to kind of treat the earth better.
Yeah.
Yeah?
By treating ourselves better, too.
So Joseph is a communications major, specifically in public health, and he's also...
Public relations,
excuse me. I don't know why I said that. It's not even under the communications.
No worries.
Public relations, PR. Oh, what made you want to get into PR?
Well, before I was a PR major, I was doing environmental studies at Pacific Union College.
Okay.
When I went up there, I never had plans to go to college before when I was in high school. It wasn't until a year after I'd graduated that I was convinced by one of my youth pastors, Aaron Renneker. He attended PUC, and he had kind of convinced me to look into it and look into the school. And I had always been a big nature person, ever since I've grown up, since I was really little. And that was one of the main things that caught my eye about that school. So when I went, I chose to do something based on the environment, which was environmental science.
So you didn't want to go to college, or you were thinking about
I never
working?
really had. I just thought, that college was never really for me. I just didn't have those big aspirations going out of high school. I was just mainly focused on graduating high school, and I didn't have those bigger dreams of going to college and graduating. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, honestly. Yeah. But when I was up there, I was focusing on environmental studies, but I came to learn that science was not my forte. And so I ended up doing kind of bad. My grades had kind of slipped. I'm just being honest, So when I transferred, when I came here to La Sierra, I was looking for something new. I was kind of looking, well, let me explore some different options. And when I had come to the orientation day, I had sat down with some of the professors from the communication department. I told them about what I really kind of wanted to do, which was something that was involved in environmental protection. And I told them about my experience with science classes and how they weren't really for me. And one of them had suggested doing something like PR, which was, communicating a message to a public about something I was passionate about or something that I wanted to support. Wow. And so they suggested going into communication and maybe focusing on PR or strategic communication. I picked PR. And the first year I came here, the first couple quarters, those classes that I took, that's when I realized, this is more my style.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So.
And I'm more than sure there's a fun story within that to see how you became the president of Environmental Club, but we'll touch on that later.
Yeah.
You were mentioning coming into La Sierra as a transfer student. What were kind of your first impressions of La Sierra?
Oh, well, I don't want to be too honest because I know there's probably some people listening that are big haters on PUC because I know there's kind of a rivalry that goes on. But I definitely think that this school has a lot more to offer education-wise. The professors that I was able to connect with my first year really gave me a ton of insight and proved to be a real good resource for me. Just about anything, And so I really appreciated that much. Obviously, PUC was a much more nature-based school because it's on top of a mountain, you know. So there was forests all around the campus, basically. So I'd actually spend most of my days while I was up there just exploring what was around the campus rather than what was in the campus. So when I came here, I did miss that a little bit. You know, I didn't have a big nature aspect around this school because it's right in the heart of Riverside, you know, metropolitan area. So there's not much to offer that much. But as far as the campus goes, I mean, this whole campus is basically an arboretum. You know, there's a ton of different kinds of trees, which I thought was really cool. So, I mean, but when I got here, I kind of shifted my focus from my hobbies, which was going out hiking in nature, and just focused more on my education. And I found that La Sierra had a lot more to offer in that sense than PUC, at least for me personally.
So you like spending your time in nature and experiencing sort of, is it the scenery or is it just like the feeling of being out?
It's everything. Yeah. The feeling, the connection, you know, just the natural environment, you know. There's one thing about, you know, being surrounded by buildings than surrounded by trees and a nice breeze and fresh air rather than smog and ton of people and concrete, you know what I'm saying? That's just more of my environment just because of the way I grew up. So
now, would you say that aspect kind of shifted the way that you started to care about the environment?
Definitely, yeah, because I mean, one thing about being in a big city-based area, you know, if I'm stuck up on a mountain, I'm not going to think too much about how it might be being affected by the people around it. But when I came here, it's like, I got to think a little bit more about how, wow, all of these cars, there's more cars around me, you know, whatever, things like that. It just gave me a much more professional sense when I came here of focusing on the education aspect of it. I mean, nature is always going to be a part of my life no matter what, you know. But when I came here, it was more of that focus, you know, being focused on school and how I can grow myself through education to be able to pursue that passion in the future. Right.
Now you mentioned kind of your upbringing about how that played a role in your kind of care for the natural outdoors and trees and stuff. No, I'm just kidding. I probably should not say that. It's kind of like Anyways, can you tell us that story about how you kind of went in, how your upbringing kind of affected your process of becoming president of the environmental club?
Yeah, definitely. So as a kid, I grew up a lot, taking a lot of trips outdoors. You know, every summer I remember going camping. You know, my dad, we'd go to Yosemite a lot or different national parks and stuff like that. So as I grew up, my father kind of really instilled that into me about the importance of nature.
Oh, was your dad like outdoors?
Yeah, definitely. That's so awesome. He was in the Marine Corps. Okay. And so he loved to be outdoors too. I think that's where it kind of comes from me, is like that spirit of him kind of, you know, continued on through me. And that's why I'm saying he really taught me a lot on a deep level about how the nature around you can impact you and how we should appreciate it and how we should spend certain points in our life, you know, immersed in it to not forget about it, you know.
This might be a left field question, but
I'm ready.
Were you like taught any outdoor skills, like how to build a fire from scratch?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
My dad always used to tell me, you know, if you can't survive like in the wild, like what's the point of you surviving anywhere else, you know? Because it's like, I mean, that's the root of us as humans, you know? We grew up on this earth learning how to survive from it, learning how to live with it. And so, yeah, definitely, you know, building fires, building forts, putting up tents, all those kinds of things, you know, as a kid. And of course, it was super fun, you know, how to do your laundry in the river, how to navigate, you know, yourself, how to even interact with animals, you know? So it was really cool. Yeah, I loved it. I had a great childhood growing up in nature.
Could you point out like one of the biggest takeaways that you see kind of fits in your life right now that your dad kind of taught you?
Yeah, so the impact, like your personal impact. You know, one thing you learn about as you grow up, if you ever go to national parks and stuff like that, is, you know, reducing your impact. You know, so that is something that really stuck with me, that still sticks with me today, that I try and influence other people. You know, it's like, even if you're in a metropolitan area, you know, there's still nature all around you. You know, the biggest thing that we can do as young adults, as older adults, as young children, is really just to reduce our impact. I mean, it's a win-win for everyone, and it's something that I think everyone should really kind of pursue in their life, you know, is to reduce their impact in any way, whether it just be like throwing a wrapper on the floor or, you know, driving your car less, you know, from smallest scale to the biggest scale, you know. And it's all about that respect for the nature is kind of where it comes from.
Now, do you feel like that? I mean, I might be wrong on this, but people might hear campaign slogans or whatnot out when they are just living about how they should reduce their impact, how they should recycle, you know, all these cliche things about saving the earth and whatnot. How can you differentiate like the shallow versions of those messages and actually showing someone that all this stuff does matter and that they should really take like full actions towards kind of helping the earth?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why people might see it as cliche messages or maybe they don't take it really seriously is because they've never seen the actual impact or consequences for themselves. You know, because people can grow up in the city for their whole life not growing up with nature, and you know, they just don't really care about those kinds of impacts because they don't see how it truly affects someone, whether it be the nature itself through trees or animals or anything like that. So when you bring it down to a very personal level with people, then they start to get the understanding of, wow, so the things that I do really do make an impact, because it's not just me, it's like all of us. Everything that we do it adds up. You know, so what I do plus what you do combined could make a bigger impact. And if people don't realize that kind of perspective about it, they'll never really understand the true impact that they have, you know. So they'll never gain that understanding of the importance of what they do on an everyday basis and how it really affects the world. Yeah, so.
Well,
if that answers your question.
Well, yeah, definitely. You totally, you have that perspective of like why this stuff matters. But what would you say is something about the environment that people overlook?
Something that they overlook? I think they overlook a lot because, like I said, you know, there's so many other things that people view as important in their life, and I think for a lot of people, nature is not one of them, and that might be because of the way they were raised. Because, like I said before, because they don't know how it impacts the world. But I think that if people just started to really see that understanding just through education, you know, whether it be through book education or through going outdoors and educating yourself and really, like I said before, taking it on to a personal level, they'll never overlook it because they have so many other important things in their life, you know. And so I think that's mainly why they overlook it, is because they're just focused on other things, you know. But if you can have that in the back of your mind, like say I do, because of the way I was raised, then it's a much more prevalent thing throughout your daily routine to really remember and reduce your impact and think on a daily basis, you know, what can I be doing better? Not just for myself, because I feel like a lot of times nowadays people are just really selfish, you know. All they care about is themselves.
That makes sense.
Not doing it to anyone directly, but yeah,
just
and
in
general, yeah. So I think people just need to have that understanding more.
Now, do you feel like the place that you are with kind of your perspective on environmental work and help, like, do you feel like that's unique, or do you feel like everyone should have that same mentality going forward? If it was a perfect world in my eyes, I think everyone would have that mentality, because there's just so much. I mean, for me, like, for example, you know, on an everyday basis, like I know Hannah last week was talking about wellness, you know, how can you do things on a daily basis to, you know, better yourself on a mental, physical, and spiritual level.
I think that if everyone had that kind of mentality like I and so many other people do that I know personally on this campus that share the same values as I do, they would just have such a better internal kind of peace, you know, if they knew, if they immersed themselves, if they knew about nature, if they knew about their environmental impact. Because like I said before, you know, if we try and reduce our actions as much as possible in caring for the earth, it's a win-win. It's a win-win for the earth. It's a win-win for us because our environment is better. You know, there's so many proven studies about how just our environment around us affects our stress levels, our, you know, everything like that. So I think it's, in a perfect world, like I said, everyone would have those same values because it would better their lives because they would have that understanding.
I think that's powerful, and as it plays out, you guys on the environmental club have been putting together some really great events, and
we've been trying.
And is there any like one particular event that kind of like stuck on your mind that you felt kind of was really impactful?
Yeah, so there's been a couple of things that we've done here on campus. One of the biggest things I thought was really impactful, even though at the time we had a small group doing it, was there's this little hill that I'm sure everybody knows about right behind the library. There's like a bench up there, and there's a few trees and like an old fire pit. But one day we just had a group of like 4 or 5 people, and we went up there and just cleaned it all up, that whole hill.
Oh, wow.
And the thing I remember the most with the people that were with me is they said, I had no idea that there was this much trash up here, you know, because you walk past that kind of stuff every day. You don't think about it because you're focused on something else. But when you collect all of that and you put it together and you see how much trash there was on that hill, then you gain that perspective. Like I said, you know, it's like, wow. And so, yeah, that was something that was really impactful. And one of the things we're doing this week, people will probably be listening to this on a Thursday, which is the last day we'll have to do our recycling raffle. Just trying to get people into that mindset, you know, like, what can I do on an everyday basis that's really easy? You know, there's literally like no excuse not to do it. And that can make a really positive impact, not only to your campus, but to the rest of the world if everyone was to kind of do the same thing. And so we're trying to reward people by taking those kinds of actions, you know, so which is one of the reasons why we're having our raffle. And these are some of our prizes right here.
Speaking of rewards,
yeah.
So for those that are listening, we have a few. Are these all of the contests?
Yeah, so there's 3 items right here that we're going to be rewarding folks with. And like I said before, that recycling raffle, the only thing you have to do is bring in a single bag of recycling. That can be a Walmart-sized bag, doesn't have to be a trash bag. But you bring in one bag, and it enters you for a chance to win one of these. A couple reusable water bottles, which is great. Obviously, reducing the amount of plastics that we use is something super easy that we could all do. So being able to give people that opportunity to win something like this is definitely something that we thought would be cool, as well as a solar-powered phone charger. That's just pretty awesome all around. I mean, who would say no to that, you know?
So, well, getting right back into kind of the stuff that you guys do at Environmental Club, what was the story of getting into the president's spot? I know it's kind of like held into a high regard, but what made you, like, what were kind of like your thoughts and motivations when trying to kind of get into the Environmental Club and the president?
Yeah. So when I first came into this club, I wasn't the president, obviously, but I saw the team and kind of what it is that they had strived for. And as soon as I came into this campus, I kind of had this really powerful motivation to try and become a leader. Yeah. So when I ran for president and ended up being elected, I thought that it could be the best way for me to lead a group of students to share the same values that I have and try and influence people in a positive way that could just make an impact, because I think as university students, we're supposed to be educated. We're supposed to take those extra steps to try and make a positive impact in our society and to our natural environment and stuff like that. So that's what really motivated me to kind of lead in this club. It's just been a little bit difficult because, you know, it's hard to really get out there if you don't have a really big team, or if we're all staying super busy, you know, it's like, it's hard to get, you know, that group of people together. And so for anyone that's out there listening right now, you know, if you feel like you share these values, if you hold that importance of nature in your life or anything like that, or just trying to make a positive impact in society and in the world, Environmental Club is for you. You know, you can follow us on our Instagram page. It's at La Sierra Environmental Club. Yeah. You know, and you can just be a part of the solution. If anything, it's a place where we can all kind of come together and just talk about things, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just as a team, which is something that you can really scale up as well. You know, if we're looking at a smaller scale, like what a campus can do. If we have a big team on campus in the Environmental Club, we can make a bigger impact. Yeah. And it's the same thing if you were to upscale it on a global level. The more people that are involved in it, the better and bigger impact that we can make. So I just want to say to anyone out there that's listening, if you share these values, if you want to make a positive impact, if it's something that you take seriously, especially in these days, you know, join us, you know, come talk to us, try and make an impact, try and make a difference by doing things on your own university campus to influence your fellow peers around you to kind of make a positive impact. So that's all we're trying to do in this club.
Yeah, it's a good thing. And right now, how many members do you have, like active members?
Right now we only have about four to six active members. But like I said before, because it's such a small team, you know, we're lacking in officers and stuff like that too. So it's really hard for us to organize big events. So the more people we have, the more things we'll be able to do, the more we'll be able to get out there, the bigger impact we'll be able to make. So right now, like in all honesty, we're a very small group, which is why we're looking for more members to come and share those values and try and make that difference with us, along with us.
Now, do you guys stay local with your projects, or do you guys kind of... like go.
So one of the things, like some of the big aspirations that I had first coming in as the president and coming into this year, was to be able to not only make a difference on our campus, but try and get students involved with their city. So the city of Riverside has actually made huge steps towards sustainability. And so we want to get folks involved with that. One of the ways, Grid Alternatives, for example, they are an organization that provides solar panels to less fortunate families. So they can provide that, so they get that free, or not free, but more sustainable energy and try and make an impact. And they're always looking for volunteers. So that was one of the things that I strive to do, is not only if people wanted to take part in activities here on campus, but if they wanted to get involved with bigger volunteer opportunities within the city. Not only that, but collaborating with the different clubs from different campuses like UCR, Cal Baptist University. They all have environmental groups. And so if we were to have a big group of people here that could collaborate with the other universities within our city, think about how that would look to the surrounding cities if they saw that these young university students were really banding together to try and make a real difference, you know. And that potential is there. The only person that it's up to is us, you know. The opportunities are there. And that's one thing we can do if you join this club, is that we can make that a possibility for students on campus to really get involved. So,
well, can you kind of break down like the process of coming up with a project or event? Like, how do you guys kind of how do you guys kind of hit the topics of environmental friendliness? So
it's all about collaboration, you know. Certainly one person can change the world, but a group of many people can change the world a lot faster, you know. So if we were to come together and just have discussions about, you know, what we read about in the news, maybe something that hit us personally that we see on an everyday basis, and then just really kind of collaborate about that, and then try and talk as a team of like solutions or activities or way that we can bring that, shed some light on those kinds of things that are happening. So it all starts with collaboration, because a lot of it, some of it has just been through my ideas. You know, a lot of it has been through collaboration with the group members that we have, or students on campus, or even people that work within our city. that's what it all comes down to is collaboration, you know. So when we come together, we bring these ideas and then we find solutions. That's how we can change the world, basically, you know.
I feel it.
Yeah.
So this might be a broad question, but I just wanted to get your kind of mindset on this. Like, what is kind of like the biggest issue that you see happening in our community regarding I want to say like, well, yeah, just what's one of the biggest problems that you see in our community in
so specifically when I think about Riverside, and I'm sure what a lot of other people think about when they think about Riverside is traffic. You know, so many cars on the road.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's like there's easy solutions, you know. If a group of people that were going the same way took one mode of transportation instead of several others, not only would it reduce traffic, but it would also reduce CO2 emissions or carbon emissions from vehicles and stuff like that, you know. So another thing like that is stuff that's going on in our local areas, water usage. Obviously, it's super hot here in the city of Riverside, as well as, you know, droughts that have happened in California. So that's one thing that you can do as an individual, you know, is just reduce your water usage. And if we had one person reduce their water usage versus 1,000 people that reduce their water usage, I mean, think of the impact that we could make, you know. So I definitely think emissions from vehicles is one thing that's really prevalent here because of all the traffic. Water usage is another big thing. So, but there's a ton of things, and it really doesn't matter what's more important in the city, because if everybody focused on everything that they could do in every city, I mean, the difference that we could all make, it would be enormous. Yeah. And like I said before, it all comes down to just that self-discipline, you know, being able to just consider that and think of that on a daily basis and know that it's important. And if everyone had that mindset, everyone would automatically reduce their impact, which could lead to a huge positive difference in our city and in our world. So
now, what do you think is going wrong? Like, why don't people receive these messages? Why don't they take action?
I think it's just because, in honesty, I do think that it's going in a positive direction. You know, from what I've seen, it's a lot more people are starting to kind of wake up to that impact because they're starting to really feel the consequences on their daily lives. Like with climate change, for example, like every single year is a new record hot year from the past, you know. So, and that's just like scientific fact. And people are really starting to see that because it's affecting them. So now that it's starting to affect people on a personal level, they're starting to realize what the problem is. And then so they're able to get educated about it and then start to try and make a difference. You know, so I don't think that people or that it's not really being transmitted to people, because I think that it is going in a positive direction. But like I said before, the more we can kind of come together and spread the message, the faster that education will happen inside of people and the quicker we can make a positive difference.
So yesterday it was Earth Day.
Yeah, it was.
And kind of the idea of Earth Day has...
By the way, Earth Day is every day. There's no one Earth Day. Earth Day is every day.
Coming from the president of the Environmental Club.
Hashtag it up, guys.
Yeah, I mean, with that same concept, why don't you think Earth Day, like, why don't you see people caring about the Earth in the same fashion every day? Because does it take a lot out of a person to take action and to make impact? Or is it
it doesn't.
You could just do tonight?
It is. It's something that we could all do every day. You know, it doesn't take much thinking. There's no effort in it at all. You know, it might be a little bit more self-discipline and it might be a little less easy, you know, because you have to make better decisions and be more conscious about it. But it's not difficult. You know, and like I said before, is that I feel like people might not be making a difference or might not be caring so much because it doesn't affect them on a personal level. So they, just like everything, you know, if it doesn't affect them, you know, why are they going to take interest into it? Why would they care about it? Yeah. So if we can really just open people's eyes about how it is affecting them, and not only affecting them today, but how their choices today will impact them in the future or affect their children in the future. When you bring it down to that personal level, then it's easy for people to make those decisions, to make better choices for themselves and for their environment.
Yeah, that's wise.
Yeah, so it's really easy.
So do you see anything positive that has been happening around here, around the area, in the community?
Yeah, as I've been in classes, for example, whereas before, I could even say from my freshman, sophomore year to now my super senior year, like I've seen an increase in people having interest in the environment or really caring more about little things like, you know, how they can reduce their impact. I mean, I see tons of people nowadays walking around, just for example, small example, with reusable water bottles, you know, and that's great. That means that people, whether they realize it or not, they're doing something a lot better by refilling that bottle every day instead of using plastic bottles. So yeah, I think, like I said before, it's definitely, the trend is going up about people that care for the environment. And so the only thing that motivates me to continue doing what I'm trying to do is just to speed up that process. Because, I mean, the faster we can get to work on solving these issues, I mean, like I said, it's just going to be a win-win for everybody.
So just going back to the environmental club, you guys have a lot of events happening here and there. What's the next focus? What's the next event, or maybe a current event that's happening?
So one of the things that we really want to do before the year ends is try to get as many people as we can together from different parts of the university to have a campus-wide cleanup, to really take a day, whether it be out of the weekend or maybe throughout a week, where it's kind of challenging people in a way to just clean up our entire campus. You know, and not only that, but we also are planning to do more hikes. Like I know everybody's probably hiked Mount Tubit, right behind the mountain, but you know, just anywhere and everywhere you go, just clean it up. You know,
that's awesome.
There's lots of different organizations out there. I know there's one, it's called For Ocean. I think that's what the name is. But it was literally started by a couple of surfers who were just tired of seeing pollution in their oceans, and they literally started an organization where people are literally cleaning up oceans and beaches by hand to get rid of that. Because not only does it affect the nature, but people have to realize that this kind of stuff affects wildlife, you know, so it can be deadly to them, whether they ingest it, whether they get trapped in it, you know, they're dying from it. And we're responsible for that. So if we really kind of take that to a personal heart and make an effort to try and just make our environment more clean, that's a step in the right direction. So that's some of the things that we have planned for the rest of this year, is to really try and have students come together where they can challenge themselves, or we can challenge them, to really just do some easy things like that, just cleaning up the campus, making it a nicer area, you know. So
now let's shoot to Nico. Did you have any, maybe since we're live, those that are listening, maybe any questions? Nico, step up.
Yeah, we got some questions. One question was asked by Ketia, something that you kind of touched on, but we'll just ask it.
What's up, Ketia?
What inspired your love for the environment?
Yeah, so I kind of went into this at the beginning of this podcast, was that one of the things that really brought this love of nature and the environment into me was the way I grew up, always being outdoors. I would always be out in nature, going camping, hiking, all this kind of stuff, and I learned to just love it. And so when I was out there and I would have this love for these, you know, wild animals and these wild plants and trees and all that, when I would see things like pollution, you know, that would really bother me, you know, because it's like people are just so careless. You know, how are you going to be so selfish and to leave some trash on something that's so natural and beautiful, you know? So that's what brought my love, was just the way I grew up, and how I was immersed into that environment that really brought that personal connection to me that makes me want to protect it now like it's one of my own, you know, because it is. I mean, we all come from the earth, so yeah, so that's what inspired that love. Great question.
And we also got a shout out from Stephanie Cervantes to the CJ campus.
Oh, great. Yeah, awesome. Hey, if there's anyone out in the CJ campus that wants to get involved with us too, follow us on Instagram. Maybe send us a direct message. If you know anyone out there on that campus that is organizing just like we are and wanting to do some stuff like that, we'd love to collaborate. Because like I said, we really want to work hard to collaborate as young adults, as young university students, to come forward and let the city know and the world know that, you know, we're young and maybe we're millennials, but like we care about this earth and we want to make a difference. So if there's anyone out there on that CJ campus that wants to get involved too, follow us on Instagram, send us a message at La Sierra Environmental Club, and let's work together. Let's get involved. Let's do it. Shout out CJ campus. Nice.
So our last question is from Darling Rojas.
Oh, what's up, darling?
What can you tell us about hydroponics?
Hydroponics. Oh,
Not bad.
yeah. So I know exactly why she's bringing that up. We had a class together recently. It was a digital design class, and we had to kind of make this ad kind of about something, and I chose to do it on hydroponics. So basically what hydroponics is growing food, different kinds of plants. It's a soilless based gardening system, and it's used through porous materials and water, and that's either through there's aquaponics and hydroponics, and it's a different way to grow plants without having to use soil. So basically, like I said before, like with aquaponics, the nutrients comes from a fish tank, and the droppings from those fish actually like feed plants, and then that way they're not getting any nutrients from the soil. They're just getting, and so the biggest part of aquaponics and hydroponics is that it uses a lot less water, but it's still just as effective. So it's a great thing. I think lots of people, I know the Sola House, which is right outside of the gates of the art department. If you guys have never been out there, you should go check it out. You can grow your own food there. They just recently installed a aquaponics system that's connected to a solar panel, so it's 100% self-sustaining. And so they're growing plants just with porous rocks and fish out there. So if you guys ever want to check out exactly how that works, go out to the Sola House, touch base with me or whatever. We can talk about it. We'll show you exactly how it works. But yeah, that's what that is. Thanks, darling, for that great question. Thanks, Nico.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate
Thank you, Nico. Shout out, Nico. Yeah, thank you guys for interacting with us and asking these questions. It means the world to us that you guys are watching right now and leaving your comments and interacting. Thank you so much. So, any more plugs that you want to do? You could plug it up.
I just want to make it real simple for everyone. Like, being an environmentalist doesn't mean you have to be some kind of hippie. It's not some kind of different lifestyle that makes you less cool. If anything, it's something that we should all be doing on a daily basis, something that we should really be aware of, because you just got to bring it down to a personal level and realize that, without nature, we would be nothing. And so if we get to the point where as human beings, we eliminate that, even though we know that we're responsible for it, we know that we can make changes to make sure that that doesn't happen, like the consequences could be dire, So it's our responsibility as young adults to really educate ourselves and learn how to influence others to really make this a big part of our lives. Like I said at the beginning of the year on our Instagram page for the new year, I said, let's make nature the biggest part of our lives this year. So like I said before, if any of you guys share those kinds of values, you can follow us on our Instagram page, become a part of the club, reach out to me, reach out to any of our members if you know them, and just get involved, and let's really work hard as young adults, as students, to make an impact, because it would say so much to the world around us, and we have all of the opportunity to make a movement, so let's really take that seriously and put it into our own hands and get serious, let's make a difference. Let's do it together.
So last question that I asked all guests that come here, if you could have a gigantic billboard that says any quote saying whatever, and it it's going to be seen by millions and millions of people, what would it say and why?
Well, it would say our club motto, which is just think green, live green. That's it.
That's awesome.
Simple as that. That's what I would have it say.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there you guys have it. It has been Joseph Ramos, and we've been talking for a good few minutes, but yeah, I enjoyed the time. Thank you, man.
Yeah, me
Thank
too.
you for coming.
Thanks a lot. See you guys.